In a dramatic turn of events at the Singapore Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz secured a spectacular victory, fending off fierce competition from Lando Norris and the Mercedes pair of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Sainz held his ground starting from pole position and successfully maintained his lead right from the get-go. The race started with a twist as Charles Leclerc, armed with soft tires, outmaneuvered Russell for the second position. The drama escalated when Logan Sargeant crashed into the barrier, warranting the deployment of the safety car, but Sainz skillfully kept his lead during the restart. As the race progressed, Mercedes cleverly took advantage of the virtual safety car to pit their drivers for new medium tires, setting the stage for an edge-of-your-seat finish. Though Russell and Hamilton managed to overtake Leclerc, they couldn't break past Sainz and Norris. In a final lap showdown, Russell collided with the barrier while attempting to bypass Norris for second place, enabling Norris to secure his third podium finish of the season and Hamilton to grab the third spot. The relentless Leclerc, despite the pressure, managed to hold off a fast-advancing Max Verstappen to clinch fourth place. Adding to the excitement, Pierre Gasly came in sixth for Alpine, whilst Oscar Piastri secured seventh for McLaren. Sergio Perez, finishing eighth, is being probed for a collision with Alex Albon. An impressive ninth-place finish for AlphaTauri saw Liam Lawson scoring his maiden points in Formula One, with Kevin Magnussen leading Haas in 10th position. The race wasn't without controversy, however, with incidents involving Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon, both drivers facing penalties and issues, resulting in their unfortunate finish at the back of the pack. Russell's crash, coupled with Valtteri Bottas, Yuki Tsunoda, and Ocon's race retirements, marked it as a race of high attrition. This electrifying victory signified Sainz's second career win and, remarkably, the first non-Red Bull win of the season. As the dust settles on the Singapore Grand Prix, we now shift our gaze to the forthcoming Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka, promising yet another thrilling contest. After that Lecterfinger, let's take a moment to introduce ourselves. I'm Enzo, your resident Formula One expert and lead presenter, guiding you through the thrilling bends and straights of this spectacular sport. Sharing the microphone with me is William, our insightful commentator, who's been analyzing every gear shift, tire choice, and team strategy for years. And let's not forget Victoria, our eagle-eyed trackside reporter, who's always ready to bring you the latest from the paddocks. We are your trusty pit crew on the F1 Motor Fever podcast, your dedicated channel for all things Formula One.
Hello, folks. Can't wait to delve into those crucial moments that shaped this race.
Hey there, listeners. I'm excited to share some exclusive trackside insights with you.
We're here every day and on special times during race weekends too, so don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell icon for notifications, and share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, sharing the podcast with your friends and family really helps us keep this engine running. If you thought the race was thrilling, just wait until we dissect it. You won't want to miss the nitty-gritty of this incredible race. So buckle up, because we're about to go full throttle. It's incredible how Sainz turned pole position into a sensational victory at the Singapore Grand Prix. Not only did he hold off the charge from Norris, but also the Mercedes pair of Hamilton and Russell, who, in a surprising turn of events, crashed on the final lap. This well-deserved victory marks not only Sainz's second career win, but also the first non-Red Bull triumph of the season.
Quite right. Sainz demonstrated real skill at the start, maintaining the lead even as Leclerc, who had chosen to start on soft tires, managed to outpace Russell for second place.
Indeed, and let's not forget the skillful navigation around the safety car deployed due to Sargeant's crash. Not only did Sainz keep the lead, but he also fended off the challenge from Russell, Norris, and Hamilton.
The drama didn't end there. After Ocon, who was running sixth, Stopped on track due to a suspected gearbox issue, Mercedes seized the opportunity to pit their drivers for new medium tires under the virtual safety car, which set the stage for a nail-biting finish.
Truly an example of high-stakes strategy and top-notch driving. Well, folks, let's dive into that grandstand finish. The race saw some interesting placements. Norris was hot on Sainz's heels, finishing second by just over 0.8 of a second. Hamilton, in his Mercedes, settled for third, just over 1.25 seconds behind. Leclerc crossed the line fourth, a significant 21 seconds adrift, closely followed by Verstappen in fifth.
I can't help but ask, how did Sainz and Norris manage to keep Russell and Hamilton at bay, even after they got past Leclerc?
Well, it seems Sainz employed a bit of strategic driving by providing DRS to his former McLaren teammate Norris. This move helped both of them fend off the Mercedes duo.
And let's not overlook that Russell's attempt to overtake Norris for second on the final lap ended with him in the barrier at turn 10. This allowed Norris to secure his third podium finish of the season and bumped Hamilton up to third place.
Absolutely. And amidst all this, Leclerc managed to keep a fast-advancing Verstappen at bay for fourth. Quite an impressive display given Verstappen's reputation for tenacious driving.
Indeed, the Red Bull driver recovered from a not-so-stellar start, which at one point saw him being overtaken by the leading drivers, an unusual sight this season, to finish in a respectable fifth position. Quite a roller coaster of a race, wouldn't you say?
Without a shadow of a doubt. It had everything from strategic driving and crashes to unexpected overtakes and comebacks. Quite the spectacle for the viewers. Moving down the leaderboard, Pierre Gasly had an impressive run for Alpine, securing the sixth spot. He was closely trailed by Oscar Piastri from McLaren in seventh. However, eighth-placed Sergio Perez is currently under investigation due to a collision with Alex Albon.
It seems Hamilton's third place was also helped by Russell's unfortunate crash into the barrier on the final lap.
Indeed, and let's not forget Liam Lawson, who scored his first ever Formula One points for AlphaTauri, finishing ninth, just ahead of Kevin Magnussen from Haas.
Following closely behind was Alex Albon in 11th for Williams, Zhou Guanyu for Alfa Romeo, and the other Haas driver, Nico Hülkenberg.
Absolutely, but it wasn't a smooth ride for everyone. Both Sargent and Fernando Alonso encountered their fair share of incidents. Alonso had a 5-second penalty, a slow pit stop, and even went off track, finishing last of the remaining runners, just behind the rookie Sargent, who came in 14th.
And let's not forget Russell's crash in the end. He, along with Valtteri Bottas, Yuki Tsunoda, who suffered an unfortunate puncture in the opening lap, and Ocon, unfortunately, did not finish the race.
Definitely a fascinating evening in Singapore. Now let's unpack some of those incidents and explore their implications. It's fascinating how the race started with a buzz in the paddock speculating about the possibility of the first non-Red Bull victory for the season. However, the grid was shorter by 2 drivers, with Zhou starting from the pit lane due to changes to his Alfa Romeo, and Stroll had to withdraw due to lingering effects from his crash in the qualifiers.
Pardon me, but it was Aston Martin, not Alfa Romeo, that had to withdraw Stroll from the race.
Oh, my apologies. Thanks for correcting that. Indeed, it was Aston Martin that had to withdraw Stroll, not Alfa Romeo.
The beginning of the race also saw a few tire strategies come into play. Most drivers opted for medium tires for the first stint. However, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Zhou, and Piastri chose the softs. Interestingly, Red Bull's drivers, along with Bottas, decided to start on the hards.
True, and what a start it was for Ferrari. Sainz managing to hold the lead, and Leclerc jumping ahead of Russell. Hamilton, who started 5th, moved up to 3rd position, although not without a bit of drama.
Indeed, Hamilton actually went off track at turn 1 to gain that place, which prompted Russell to question over the radio if Hamilton would let him pass. Hamilton, being the sportsman that he is, allowed Russell to pass him on the next lap. Quite an eventful start, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and it set the stage for the remaining excitement of the race. It was quite unfortunate for Tsunoda, with his race ending abruptly due to a puncture caused by a collision with Perez. Meanwhile, Sainz held on to his lead, with Leclerc succeeding in outpacing Russell for 2nd place.
Alonso and Ocon also managed to surge ahead to 6th and 7th positions, respectively. The first pit stop of the day came from Alfa Romeo, with Zhou swapping his soft tires for hard ones.
That's right. And Norris, who was fifth at the time, also seemed dissatisfied, echoing Russell's earlier request for Hamilton to cede his position, which Hamilton eventually did.
This reminds me of an old race I watched with my dad. It was Jacques Villeneuve in the 1996 season at the Portuguese Grand Prix. Villeneuve's assertiveness over the radio, asking his teammate Damon Hill to let him pass, is somewhat reminiscent of Norris and Russell's situations today.
That's a very poignant observation.
Of course, the dynamics were different, but the assertiveness and the strategy are quite similar. Just as with Norris and Russell today, Villeneuve had to make his move to secure his position in the race.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, back in the race, we also saw Verstappen making his mark, gaining 2 positions, and closing in on Ocon. Quite an exciting chase there, reminiscent of Villeneuve's determination to move ahead.
Absolutely. Every race has its own dynamics, but history often repeats itself, albeit with different characters and circumstances. As the race progressed, we saw Leclerc being instructed to maintain a 3-second gap to Sainz. Sainz, on the other hand, seemed to be having a rather comfortable race, stating over the radio that he could maintain his pace indefinitely.
And while Sainz was setting the fastest times, we also saw an impressive performance from Alonso and Ocon, who managed to overtake Magnussen at the start of the race.
On a side note, it's interesting to note that Haas hadn't scored a point since the Miami Grand Prix in May. Nonetheless, Magnussen and Hülkenberg were running in 9th and 10th places respectively, with Gasly closely following, ready to capitalize on any errors.
Indeed, and we also heard Leclerc stating over the radio that he believed Sainz was slowing down. The timesheets confirmed his observation, with Lawson in 12th matching Sainz's pace.
And just as in the old races, Hamilton was beginning to reel in his competition, in this case, Norris for 4th place. He set the fastest first sector on the 14th lap.
And then, quite intriguingly, Russell's engineer informed him to keep pressuring the Ferraris ahead, in response to his query about his chances of winning the race. In the midst of this, the threat of rain was also hinted at, adding another layer of uncertainty to the race.
And as if on cue, yellow flags were raised following an incident at turn 8, where Sargent crashed straight into the barrier. The race was certainly heating up at that point.
Speaking of Sargent's unfortunate incident, it brings to mind an interesting fact that many might not know. The barriers lining the tracks, like the one Sargent crashed into, are not just ordinary barriers. They are designed to absorb the impact of a crash, effectively reducing the force that the driver experiences. This technology is called a TechPro barrier, and it's been in use since 2006.
You're right. These barriers are primarily made from foam and plastic, and are a great example of how safety is a top priority in Formula One. They have undoubtedly saved numerous drivers from severe injuries during crashes.
Absolutely. Safety has evolved significantly over the years in Formula One. From helmet advancements to the introduction of the Halo system, it all contributes to making the sport safer for everyone involved.
And as we've seen in this race, despite all the attempts to avoid mishaps, incidents do occur. Nonetheless, the continued push for better safety measures ensures that drivers are as protected as they possibly can be, even during high-speed crashes.
Indeed, the evolution of safety in motorsport is a testament to the constant strive for improvement in this adrenaline-fueled sport. It's a fascinating aspect of Formula One, often overlooked, but crucial to the sport.
As we saw, the incident with Sargent caused quite a bit of chaos, with the safety car being deployed and several drivers, including the top 7, rushing to the pit lane for some hard tires. Red Bull, however, decided to stay out with their old hard tires.
So, why do teams opt for hard tires? Doesn't softer mean better grip?
Oh, come now, are we back to Formula One 101?
Well, I'm sure someone out there might be wondering the same thing.
At this rate, we might get accused of turning this into a beginner's guide to Formula One. We could risk losing our seasoned listeners.
On the contrary, a bit of revision never did anyone harm. It's good to go back to basics and ensure everyone's on the same page, don't you think?
While the softer tires do offer more grip, they wear out faster, which isn't ideal for a long stint. The hard tires, on the other hand, last longer, though they provide less grip. It all comes down to strategy and the specific demands of each race.
And these decisions can often turn races around, as they did in this instance, propelling Verstappen to second position and Perez to fourth, while Leclerc and Hamilton lagged due to traffic during their pit stops. The safety car's withdrawal at the end of lap 22 saw Sainz leading, followed by Verstappen, Russell, Perez, Norris, Leclerc, Hamilton, Alonso, Ocon, and Bottas, with Magnussen in 11th place.
As the race resumed, we saw Sainz handling the restart remarkably well. Meanwhile, Russell was pushing Verstappen, and Norris was striving to overtake Perez for third place.
Hold on a moment there. Weren't Norris and Perez battling for the 4th position, not the 3rd?
You're right. My apologies for the slip. Yes, Norris was looking to overtake Perez for the 4th place. Amidst the action, Leclerc had to go wide at turn 7 to avoid colliding with Norris, a move that allowed Hamilton to climb up to 6th position. We also saw Russell successfully overtake Verstappen, and Norris subsequently surpass Perez.
And while all this was happening, Alonso received a 5-second penalty for crossing the line at the pit entry. Norris then managed to get past Verstappen at turn 14 on lap 24.
And further down the race, Hamilton managed to overtake Perez, though the move was not without controversy. Hamilton went wide on the curb and Perez demanded the position back.
That's right, and as the race continued, we saw Russell keeping the pressure on Sainz, aiming for the top spot. Simultaneously, Hamilton was within striking distance of Verstappen for the 4th position.
Actually, Hamilton was looking to overtake Verstappen for the 5th position, not the 4th.
Ah, yes, my mistake. Thank you for the correction. Hamilton was indeed closing in on Verstappen for the 5th position.
Towards the end, Hamilton capitalized on his good pace and the DRS advantage to eventually overtake Verstappen for 5th place at turn 7.
As the battle raged on, Verstappen found himself under severe pressure from Leclerc, who had just managed to overtake Perez. This proved to be good news for Ferrari, as Leclerc was able to pass Verstappen at turn 7, and Sainz was pulling ahead of the pack.
That's correct. But for Red Bull, the situation was less favorable. Perez was feeling the heat from Alonso, who was right behind him, seeking the 7th spot.
Verstappen was clearly having a difficult time, remarking that it felt like he was driving on ice as he maintained his lonely position in 6th place.
Meanwhile, at the front, Russell was once again closing in on Sainz. The top 4 racers, including Norris and Hamilton, were separated by a mere 3 seconds.
And further back, we saw an intense battle for 10th place, didn't we?
Indeed, there was a fierce duel between Gasly and Magnussen. Gasly was clearly not pleased after being forced off the track by Magnussen at turn 7. However, Magnussen managed to hold on for at least another lap.
But the tables turned on the next lap. Magnussen went off track, which allowed Gasly to seize the 10th position. That was quite unexpected, wasn't it?
I must say, I was quite taken aback by that. Magnussen's tires got dirty after going off at turn 1, which seems to have resulted in his subsequent off at turn 7, pushing him down to 16th place. Racing can be so unpredictable sometimes. Continuing with our recap of the race, lap 38 was a spectacle. We saw quite a showdown between Perez, Alonso, and Ocon, who were all vying for the 7th position.
That's right. Ocon managed to climb to 8th, overcoming the Aston Martin racer, while Perez held his ground. All this while, Gasly, who was now the fastest driver on the track, was closing in.
On the following lap, Ocon once again demonstrated his exceptional racing skills by forcing Perez offline and overtaking him at turn 9.
But that's not all. Perez also lost his position to both Alonso and Gasly within the same lap and immediately pitted for medium tires.
And this resulted in Perez rejoining the race at the back of the field. Verstappen also pitted a lap later for medium tires, rejoining in 15th place.
This sequence of events promoted Piastri to 9th and Lawson to 10th, with the AlphaTauri rookie eyeing his first points finish.
Meanwhile, at the front, Sainz was still leading, while Russell, after falling back, was closing the gap. But not everything was smooth sailing, was it?
Not at all. Alonso, who was now in 7th place, reported over the radio that his car was undrivable.
And then we had Ocon, who was running 6th, stopping on track due to what appeared to be a gearbox issue. It was a disappointing development for Alpine, with smoke billowing from Ocon's a 523 at turn 2. Quite the dramatic race, wasn't it?
Here's a little tidbit for all our listeners. The track where all this action unfolded, namely the Singapore Grand Prix, has a rather interesting history. It was the first night race in Formula One history and the first street circuit in Asia for F1 races. The Marina Bay Street Circuit, as it's officially known, is renowned for its high-speed straights and demanding corners. It's a track that truly tests the skills of the drivers and the capabilities of the cars.
Absolutely, and it's also known for its stunning backdrop of the city's skyline, making it a favorite among both drivers and spectators.
And let's not forget the humid and often unpredictable weather conditions in Singapore. It adds another layer of complexity to the race, forcing teams to make critical strategy decisions.
Indeed, the Singapore Grand Prix always brings something special to the Formula One calendar. Let's see what the next race has in store for us. But before that, let's continue with our recap. As the race continued, Ocon's frustration was palpable. The French driver was heard shouting over the radio, clearly upset as the virtual safety car was rolled out.
It was indeed a tense moment. However, the pit lane remained relatively quiet except for Albon, who decided to pit for medium tires.
Then we saw the Mercedes drivers, Russell and Hamilton, double stacking for a new set of medium tires.
That move dropped them to 4th and 5th positions, but it gave them the advantage of clear air as they started their pursuit of the leading trio of Sainz, Norris, and Leclerc, with only 17 laps remaining.
But Alonso's fortunes took a turn for the worse. A combination of his penalty and a slow pit stop for soft tires pushed him down to the 15th spot.
From there, things really heated up. Russell and Hamilton began to close the gap to the front runners, while the cameras caught a disappointed Ocon walking back to the pit lane.
Alpine confirmed that a gearbox issue was behind Ocon's stoppage. Meanwhile, Alonso's rough day continued as he went off at turn 14, moving him to the back of the field.
But Verstappen was showing some excellent pace on his medium tires. He managed to overtake Hülkenberg for the 9th position, clearly determined to make the best of what had been a challenging evening.
The action was still very much alive as we got to lap 50. The top three were still under pressure from Russell and Hamilton, who were setting the timesheets ablaze.
Indeed, even Lawson, who was running in 8th, started to feel the heat from Verstappen.
The stewards also announced that they would investigate a possible virtual safety car infringement by Perez and Albon after the race.
Meanwhile, Russell was closing in on Leclerc, with Hamilton following suit. By lap 53, both Mercedes drivers were hot on Leclerc's heels, overtaking the Ferrari at turn 14 and 7 respectively.
Then there was Verstappen, who was having a good end to the race, climbing to 7th after overtaking Piastri. Bottas, on the other hand, suffered a hydraulic issue that brought an end to his race.
You know, if someone like Ayrton Senna was in this situation, I wonder if things would have panned out differently.
It's an interesting thought, but comparisons between eras are always difficult. The game has changed so much over the years. What we can agree on, however, is that every driver we see today, just like Senna, is pushing their car to its limits to finish as high as possible.
Absolutely. Back in the race, Sainz was seeking information on the gap to Norris as the Mercedes duo of Russell and Hamilton continued to close in. But Norris was proving to be a tough opponent to overtake, thanks to some clever assistance from Sainz, who offered him some DRS to stay ahead.
The race saw one last dramatic turn during the final lap. Russell, in his bid to overtake Norris, ended up clipping the barrier at turn 10, resulting in a crash.
That unfortunate incident handed 3rd place to Hamilton, while Sainz clinched the victory and Norris finished 2nd.
That's a tough break for Russell. Could you give me an example of other instances when such misfortune has befallen a driver in their pursuit of a better position?
Absolutely. One example that comes to mind is the 1994 Australian Grand Prix. Nigel Mansell, who was in line for a podium finish, spun out while trying to overtake Michael Schumacher. It cost him not just a podium finish, but a position in the top 6.
Back to the race at hand, Leclerc managed to fend off the fast-paced Verstappen to finish 4th. The championship leader, Verstappen, had to settle for 5th place, marking his first time off the podium this season.
Gasly finished 6th, with Piastri, Perez, Lawson, and Magnussen rounding off the top 10. The stewards decided that no further investigation was needed for an incident between Perez and Lawson.
And unfortunately, outside of the points, we had Albon, Zhou, Hülkenberg, Sargent, and Alonso. With Russell's crash, he joined Bottas, Ocon, and Tsunoda as the drivers unable to finish the race.
As the dust settled, the top 3 of Sainz, Norris, and Hamilton celebrated on the podium. Sainz was quoted saying, "An incredible feeling, an incredible weekend."
Sainz expressed his gratitude towards Ferrari for their efforts in securing this victory after a challenging start to the season.
And rightfully so. He mentioned that they had nailed the weekend, the race, and everything they had to do. No doubt this victory is a source of pride for Ferrari and the whole of Italy.
It's always a special moment when a driver gets to stand on the podium, knowing all their efforts have paid off.
Absolutely. And now the drivers get a few days off before the next race. We'll be heading to Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix, which will take place from the 22nd to the 24th of September.
Suzuka is one of the most loved circuits on the calendar, so it's definitely going to be an exciting race to look forward to.
William, have you seen what the internet world is buzzing about today after the race?
Indeed, let me share. A user named F1Bot started a discussion titled 2023 Singapore Grand Prix Post-Race Discussion. Quite a comprehensive post. It includes session times, race information, the previous race in Singapore, starting grid, and even where to watch the race.
Oh, sounds like they covered everything. And what about the comments? What are the fans saying?
There's a lot of chatter. User Mo Money Mo said, "So happy for Carlos, but absolutely gutted for George." And Wonderstruck17 praised the race, claiming it was a brilliant strategic race to watch.
Any more interesting comments?
Yes, user Why Always, they miss Nayant my 91, seemed unhappy with Ferrari's decision, stating, "If I'm Leclerc, I'm leaving Ferrari next year. They just can't stop messing them over." But MCS 1987 defended Ferrari, saying, "Ferrari didn't screw over Leclerc. They decided they were going to win the race and maximize the odds for the guy leading. That's called good strategy."
Well, as they say, everyone's a critic. But it's always great to hear the fans' perspectives. What else caught your eye?
There were also discussions about the safety car rules. User Mr. Swiggity Swoo questioned why a bit of carbon fiber on the track causes a full safety car, but not multiple cars being stopped on the track. Error Code 51 and Racing Randy 83X provided some answers regarding the safety measures and procedures.
Aha, the great safety car debate never fails to spark a discussion.
Indeed, and lastly, user Drun KK Ken has already started looking ahead, asking, "So, anyone looked at Suzuka weather forecast yet?"
Ah, always thinking ahead. That's the spirit. Thanks for the updates, William. And that's a wrap for today's episode of F1 Motor Fever Podcast. We've had a fantastic time discussing the thrilling race weekend and breaking down all the key moments. Remember to click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our analysis and interviews.
Absolutely. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments section. We want to know what you think about the race, the drivers, and, well, everything. Share our podcast with your mates, your family, your pets. Spread the Formula One love.
And always remember to keep coming back for more of our daily updates and exciting race weekend chats. We appreciate your support.
Yes, and while we can't give you any spoilers, we promise there's some exciting stuff coming up that you won't want to miss.
Thank you again for joining us today. We truly appreciate it. We're already looking forward to the next episode. Until then, remember, pedal to the metal, keep your gaze on the road. Our channel's content is pure gold.